Without further ado, one of the requirements of Boys and Girls Clubs of America is that trustees must go through safety training. So notwithstanding the fact that we have this mandate, but I think we all know that the work we do with children and the safety of the children in our clubs is so vitally important. So with that, I'd like to give thanks to Teresa Walsh, Senior Executive of Safety, Government and Innovation for BGCA. She has been a friend of ours for many, many years. So Teresa.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Yeah, I love the efficiency of your meetings. I'm like, this is the kind of board you need to be on. Y'all are getting it done today. So thank you for allowing me to be here and spend a few minutes with you today talking about safety. I would be remiss if I didn't start by just sort of pausing for a moment and thinking of our friends in the Southeast that Helene has impacted. I also oversee disaster response for Boys and Girls Clubs of America, so work closely with FEMA and all the agencies, Save the Children, and so we go immediately, actually before storms happen, and try to get things set up and coordinated with our other partners around the country. We have 28 organizations from severely impacted, one club it was 15 feet underwater and still is underwater in some parts of the building, but 28 organizations that have been impacted, some severe, some not, but water damage, and then others who do have water damage. But the 28, from roofs blown off to walls missing to can't get to the club because of the roadways. There's over 400 roads just in North Carolina, Tennessee alone that are impassable. So trying to maneuver to get stuff, supplies, has been a challenge, and of course electricity and water in general. But so about 53,000 of our members are impacted in this way from the 28 organizations. It kind of gives you a little bit of landscape of the impact of it. I would say, it looks like Katrina out there when they are sending the pictures in. It truly does. Some towns gone, as you see in the media. So, continue to think of them as we work to be able to provide support on getting those organizations back up and operating and taking care of the families, the staff, and board members who have lost their homes. So, with that said, safety is utterly one of the most important things that we could do, and I want to commend you all for all your work on safety. I was supposed to be here last night, but due to airlines, things happen, so I didn't get to be here. But I got to be here to watch people going out, and they're doing safety assessments. Board members are all engaged. Your safety committee's engaged, which, we sometimes don't see everywhere at that level. So I just want to say thank you, for your investment in safety, because it's taking care of the kids, taking care of the people who volunteer in the clubs and the staff members and our overall organizations is the highest type of priority. So you'll see that, safety, it does increase optimal experience. If kids are safe when they're in the building or they know they're coming to the building, and staff, it makes for a whole lot better experience than anything else. So I think you're going to help me kind of turn the pages here. I'm going to quickly kind of go and highlight really the areas that you have already had training on over the last 2 years and the staff received training on. But just give you a little data on that will, I hope, to help increase the why behind it. And some of it is a little bit triggering, so I want to say that, but I won't go into too much. But just I do want to say that today for that. So safety is not the absence of incidents. Sort of when we first started on this safety journey, really trying to intensify it, people were like, oh, let's have no safety incident reports. Well, that is not how it works. That's not how you improve. So yes, there will be incidents, but it's the presence of protections, and when people think about safety, a lot of times they think about fires. It isn't just that. It's having your doors locked. It's having, the staff trained. That is the most important, singular most important thing that could happen at a club, to make sure that the kids are safe. So the culture of the organization, which safety sort of built into everything you all do. I've watched it even over the years, and even today when I've been here, the engagement of the safety committee, the engagement of your board, that is building culture. Of course, culture comes from leadership, which is, the board, which is Hector and Mary Ann too, because they talk about it, they model it. The staff know that if something is wrong, they could say something. So a say something culture within an organization really does help to keep everyone safe, because people aren't afraid to say, hey, I don't think we should be doing that, or hey, this happened, we should do something about this, or how do we increase safety in this area for young people in our clubs. So, as board members, they ask all the time, hey, what can we be doing to make sure that we are doing everything we can to keep our club, our organization safe? And here are some of the things which you all already do. The board is highly engaged. You have a safety committee. We do encourage everybody to have measures around it and use dashboards so you know how many incidents you have. You know where those incidents occurred so that you can be able to improve upon those. We have sort of went from talking about here are layers of protection that we can have in Boys and Girls Club to sort of let's build systems around training like this for board members, training for staff, but not just training. How do our facilities look? Our doors all locked? Do all the video systems work? Are there policies and procedures for how we operate when there is an emergency, all types of emergency? So those are some different ways we look at allocation of resources for safety. I know you all have done some improvements around safety. You were part of the pilot, so thank you very much for being a pilot of the safety assessments. This is actually the first year that safety assessments are a membership requirement. So we have been very busy doing 3,362 to be exact safety assessments across this country, and we will be done the day before Thanksgiving if all goes well and we have no more hurricanes. So it has been quite the feat. Thank you, and thank you for being a part of it. We appreciate that. That's our first time in history that we'll be able to say we've been in every single site in the United States of America, which we're close to 6,000 now. So we'll do half each year. Within another 24 months, or within next year, we'll have been to every single site. So, it's been wonderful, and actually we have gained so much knowledge and be able to secure a lot of funding, actually, because we're able to tell a story about what our need is. So that's been one of the best things that have happened. And of course, then I got a pause on critical incidents. I'm going to tell you a little bit about nationally what we're seeing around critical incidents, meaning the organization, if there is a critical incident here, which involves maybe somebody going to the hospital or something making the media, the organization, the membership requirement states there's 24 hours that Boys and Girls Clubs of America are informed. That isn't because we just need to know. That's because we are providing support or trying to provide support, as far as communications go, or do we need to help get counselors? Depending on the situation, what are the supports that BGCA can be able to provide to your organization? So I talked a little bit about safety management systems. Again, we're asking, clubs to think about, is the training adequate? Are you tracking and measuring any incidents that you have? Are there unique situations, like you have a detention facility, which that's great. We only have about 12 in the country, something around that number. I need to get exactly what it is, but not many. But yours is the largest detention facility where there is a Boys and Girls Club in this country. So that's a bit of a unique kind of partnership that you have there, and a great partnership. So when we look at increasing the level of safety and security within organizations, we work very closely with Homeland Security. We just did a national partnership for the first time with Homeland Security, and it looks like, if all goes well, we will be the national partner that they will pick to help us increase security around the country, which will start with major metro organizations, and they are willing to actually come in, sit alongside safety committees, which Chicago, of course, will be one of those cities that will offer that opportunity, where their officers will actually come in and work with the safety committee on, ensuring that your emergency operations, should even a national event occur. So we've sort of layered this where we are getting communities ready, we're getting our Boys and Girls Club ready, and then what if something happens nationally, how are we going to respond across this country in major metro cities? So they're willing to help us do that. So that's been another great partnership. We are all about how do we get more money for safety. So this is one of the areas that we're really focused on now. Our government relations team are working in individual states where we know there is a need to ask our friends that sit on hills in different parts of this country to support investments in safety and security. So this happened, I think it's been about a week ago, and this is in Georgia. So this is a $2.5 million for the Boys and Girls Clubs in Atlanta, Georgia. And then beyond that, another pot of money for Georgia proper, for other Boys and Girls Clubs to be able to apply. And this is strictly for safety and security, which can be for, strengthening facility security. It can be for training. And we utilize the safety assessments to be able to secure those dollars. I mentioned being one of the biggest takeaways, or I would say, levers that we've been able to utilize is the fact that we can now tell a story. We see the national need. We see what we need to be able to tell organizations or individuals, or in this case, our friends there in Atlanta, Georgia, our story to be able to secure dollars for clubs. Also, another partnership I mentioned, Katrina was really our first time that we have been on the ground with clubs in a national disaster, and that's when I sort of got dubbed the disaster lady. It was just probably because no one else really wanted to do it, but I went down there, I didn't know anything about it, and learned as much as I could, which I partnered with FEMA and literally got in vans and went with them and tried to learn everything I could. From that time of Katrina, which has been a long time ago, I kept saying, hey, can Boys and Girls Clubs be able to apply for these dollars that you have? But most of them are earmarked for churches, which I totally, absolutely get. But we were at lunch one day and I said, you do know we have church and Boys and Girls Clubs across this country, right? They're like, what are you saying? I was trying everything I could because it is true. A lot of churches operate on Sunday, rent facilities, Boys and Girls Club. And about 3 weeks later, they called and said, you know what? We don't have much time left in this funding period, but do you think clubs would apply? And I'm like, yes. So we did secure the first year, which was last year, $19.7 million across this country from FEMA for safety and security. So that was landmark. We had more applications than any other agencies, and of course applied for more money than there was available. So we liked that. So we showed, hey, we are going to show up big, and we want to partner. So this year, the first round, there is FEMA federal dollars, and then each state has FEMA dollars. So there's kind of two pots of money, and they let us apply for both. They're all on different release dates. It is crazy trying to track it, trying to tell clubs about it, but it doesn't matter because we're just thankful that we get the opportunity for it. So there's $980 million available. The applications are all due. Clubs right now are finding out if they were funded for that money. And then yesterday, as I was getting in the Uber to go to the airport, I got a text, FEMA, call me. Called because I know to call. If they text me, I'm calling immediately because it usually means either something really bad is happening in the universe or something really good. And he's like, "Hey, Teresa, we just put $200 million more in the pot. It'll be open in October." And I said, "Okay, so the clubs are going to know that didn't get money, that maybe weren't funded, they can apply." And he's like, "Yes, or any new ones." So it's all about relationships. You all know this. So to be able to have somebody pick up the phone and say, "Hey, we're going to give another $200 million." It's a beautiful thing because some of you in here are builders and construction and know how much things cost. But just to give you an idea for those that may not, a single door entry, two-door entry with access control, buzzer kind of situation, you can get in and out easily. Somebody doesn't have to go open the door every time. Those are like $12,000 a set. So it is not inexpensive to re-equip a facility. So these dollars have just been incredible for our clubs. Just to tell you, we are hard after money because we know it costs a lot. So just a snapshot of what we've been able to do. We do have some safety funding that either have been given from individuals or maybe corporations have given us money. So we have one. $83,000 has been given out to about 34 organizations. This money is, though, in particular to pay for their safety assessment. So organizations that literally, it's a lot of rural and quite frankly Indian country that maybe don't have the money to pay for their safety assessments, we are supplementing them. And then there's a safety improvement grant. So once maybe, and a lot of this is targeted toward rural America, we see that it is a high priority item and it costs a lot. We'll say, hey, apply for these dollars so we can pass that through. So you'll see we've given, there's been 97 applications. We have 2 more rounds this year, right at 109 million available. So we've given out 275,000. People ask all the time, hey, what's the feedback on these assessments, Tracy? Some people were kind of upset that, we'd be going in and doing safety assessments across the country. I said, well, it's quite great. You could see that. Most people are very happy about it once they kind of get through it and say, oh, I learned a lot. Oh, and you're helping us, and there's support, to be able to improve safety in organizations and be able to fix things, right? The feedback has been mostly always all positive from board members and from CEOs around the country. As far as incidents, I said I'd mention this a little bit because everybody kind of asks, like, what are you seeing? What are the when people are reporting in, what are the top things we're seeing? And you probably see it in the news, so these things probably won't surprise you much. But and these are in priority order. And yes, I don't put how many are there for a legal reason. We have attorneys in the room, but so you would understand that. But it's child-adult abuse. Child-on-child abuse. These are sort of, again, in priority order. And you can see we've had a bit of a drop, 603, 590, but that's current. So we predict that we'll be a little bit above that. But these are incidents that clubs across the country have reported into BGCA. Some of them are, we're getting better at what is a critical incident and what isn't. So some of the things, people just kind of report everything. And we don't need to know about every broken arm or something. Things happen at Boys and Girls Club. Now, if somebody goes to the hospital, that's considered critical. So we're working on improving that too. But I just wanted to kind of give you a snapshot of, what is being reported in from local Boys and Girls Clubs. And of course, that doesn't mean these happened at Boys and Girls Clubs. They can happen at school, people's home. Because of mandated reporting, club staff have to tell and they have to make the call, just as you would, as many of you would do too. Mandated reporting, I just want to touch on it because there is a requirement that anyone who works with youth in this country that receives any kind of information that there be a child being harmed, we are mandated to report that. Our clubs are really good at that. All clubs across the country understand that at this point. We believe, we sure hope so. But that is a membership requirement. I call that one out because of the next slides, which are more around abuse. Because people, I don't want to call, should we call? If we call, that parent won't bring them back anymore. Well, if we don't call, no one's ever going to know. And if they don't get 3 calls, nobody's ever going to do anything. So these are some of statistics kind of right now as people say, how many children have actually experienced abuse? Well, and these are the different types of abuse. About 74% is neglect, 17% is some type of physical abuse, 7% psychological, and about 10 or almost 11% are sexually abused. Some sort of alarming stats that I never even like to look at, but are truth in our country, that 1 in 5 girls, 1 in 20 boys are going to be the victim of abuse. But even worse than that, during like a 1-year period, if we just took that, in 12 months, 16% of youth aged 14 to 17 are have been abused in some way sexually. Well, over the course of their lifetime, those young people, 28%, 14 to 17, have been sexually victimized at some time. Of course, the most vulnerable are our kids, 7 to 13 years old, And then, of course, 3 out of 4 adults who've been sexually assaulted were victimized by someone they knew. That is why it is so important that our one-on-one rule, which is prohibited in clubs, that no one will ever be, no one, not the staff, not a volunteer, not a parent, will be alone with a young person in a Boys and Girls Club one-on-one, and that is why. And we've heard everything. Well, the kids, they won't tell us if there's 2. It doesn't matter. Do not be one-on-one with a young person. We, train around line of sight and doors open and things, but this is alarming, and this is the why behind we take safety so serious. Just a lot of questions around, well, who abuses children, Teresa? Can't you all tell? Like, isn't there a test, a written test you can just give everybody, when they apply for a job? There is actually a lot of data and scientific research on that, and you could, but I don't know where we are in the country on that. Maybe one day we will be. But across the country, there's about 435,000 perpetrators that states say live within their states. What do these people look like? They're between usually 25 to 44 years old. And shocking to some people, about one half are female. So, yeah, people usually do that. That's interesting. And about 48% are male. And the largest percent of predators are white, at about almost 50%. So red flag behaviors, these are behaviors that staff are trained on and that you received in your training about, hey, what makes you kind of go, that sure didn't seem right. Those are red flag behaviors, things that people do that are manipulative, or you kind of makes you pause for a moment. Things like this. They participate in grooming, a lot of online, which I'm going to share the next slide, some statistics on that are probably some of the most shocking. They try to push boundaries. They'll talk to the young people about things that you and I probably would never talk to a young person about, that would make you go, they were saying what to you? So that staff report those behaviors to a supervisor, that they say something about it. Their manipulative behavior, threatening to do something, to tell somebody if the young person doesn't do this, and then it's our little secret. Don't tell your mom or dad. I know that they won't let you go to that party. If I was there, I would let you go to that party. So to start that befriending and grooming behaviors. And then this inappropriate interest in minors. People want to volunteer, and they want to volunteer today, and they'll volunteer for anything. And they won't tell you what they're good at, but they want to volunteer for anything today, like right now, without a background check. So those layers of protection around background checks, around the doing references, is, I can't even express, more key than doing a background check. I know background checks are a membership requirement, references are too, but it is now a membership requirement that if a club hires somebody from another club, that they call and get a reference check. So if somebody says, I will not hire them, don't hire them. Don't hire them. I know you would not do that here, but we have some clubs who have made that mistake, quite frankly, and end up in a bad situation, a legal battle over that. So that is a membership requirement going forward, or now. And then maybe they're just charismatic and fun, and they always like to hang out with the kids. This is the federal government last year declared this a state of emergency for young boys that are 8 to 11 years old, and it's online. You can imagine during COVID, all the kids were online. Some kids had supervision. A lot of kids did not. And so the amount of sextortion online it increased 323%. And it's kind of not surprising thinking about how many young people are on games. But the targeting of young males, we have the highest death by suicide rate in this country we've ever had for 8 to 11-year-old boys because of the threats. They will tell them, my name's Bobby and I'm 11. And Bobby is really 17 years old and lives in a whole different place. And they will threaten them to go buy them gaming cards. They will say they're going to send a picture. Maybe they don't even have a picture, but they convince the young person they've taken a picture of them. So they have a nude picture of them. Or the young person may have sent that picture to them. So the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has been a partner of Boys and Girls Clubs for over since the inception, actually, and they provide incredible resources to clubs across the country or to anyone on this topic and videos. But some of those things are a bit alarming, but it does tell the story, right, of where we are in this country and why it is so important what we're doing around safety and our concern around how do we just continually improve. As technology improves and the world is a different place and everyone is online and going and doing there's nothing more important than protecting our next generation of future leaders. So I thank you for your time today. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I will be here afterwards. But thank you so much for having me today, and thank you for your commitment to safety. We appreciate you as board leaders for sure.